Everyone, Karen Cecilia here. History was not meant to be boring. History was meant to be lively, fun, and transformational. It was not meant to be memorized either, although most people does memorize history so that you can repeat it with ease and all of that. It was meant to be experienced, not memorized, just to experience it and move on and all of that. But we remember, and we like to remember and say, remember that happened then and that happened at that time. History is recorded because we need to ensure that it is always alive. And that might sound a little funny since history is mostly about some dead people back in some times that does not exist anymore. But it's a transportation from where we are now to where back way back then, and we can always read something about history or listen to something about history and transport our minds to the time and feel a part of it and feel, very living in it. Like I can transport myself when I'm reading a book. I can transport myself to the time and imagine the scenery and all the rest of it. And a movie too does that because, you know, take the series, the Outlander series. I mean, Outlander is a beautifully written, beautifully acted, beautifully done series about time travel from one period of time to the next and what all that was about and how people move from one forward time go back and use the experience of forward time to help manage some things by going back. But and Hollywood have been doing this for the longest while. If some of you remember Time Tunnel, and shows like that. So history we always have to ensure that it is always alive, and that is why we must know it, and we must learn it, and we must immerse ourselves in the fact that it exists. Because I had something to eat at 6 o'clock. It's now 6:50. It's history. 50 minutes ago, I made history. I ate. Of course, nobody's going to record that, but September 3rd happened, the third term for Mr. Holness. It's historical in many, many ways, and the history books will write about it. Like everything historical, history is a past to be enjoyed. It is to be enjoyed, it is to be studied, and it is to be journeyed through, with appreciation and yeah, with some longing. You look back on some time, you say, I wish I lived in that time. And you long for the days when that was so, or this was so. Long for the days when bread was 15 cents a loaf, and you long for some things. Long for the days when we played outside because there was no electrical gadgets. So we get to know each other. We know each other by name, by nature. We know everything about each other. From time to time, the community people talk about it. Why? Because we played together. We socialized. We didn't close off ourselves in our homes because we didn't have that kind of luxury or amenities by which we should close ourselves off in our house. By the time the television came about, there might be one in a community, and that's where everything stops at. But we used to be out and about playing dandy shandy, playing marble, we fly kite, the girls and boys and play dolly house. I wasn't big on the dolly house thing, but I was a marble player and fly kite. And yeah, we fight too and race board house in the gully and go out with all kind of thing. But that is how history is. You live it. You create a thing in your mind where you know that this was happened then. We will be talking about a whole diverse part, diverse, but diversified aspects of history. I'm trying to get my thoughts together here. And for example, there is a story that when Abraham Lincoln first ran for president, he never had a beard. And a young girl, a 9-year-old, I don't remember her name, but I do remember who she is. she wrote to him and she told him that he should grow a beard. And she wrote to him and she said that she thought that he would look, like a statesman, and it would be good for him to actually wear a beard. And according to some parts of history, and this has been repeated in more than one places and more than one history books, he actually grew the beard, and then after he won the election in 61, he went and visited the little girl. And that's interesting, I think. I think that's an interesting part of history. I am interested in I mean, pretty much every aspect of history, the age of the Vikings. I mean, my favorite time of history is the 16th century because, and some of you might laugh at this, but I believe that my first life was in the 16th century. It feels very familiar, and some of you might have experienced some of those things where you feel very familiar when you read about or listen to or watch a movie or a show about a particular period of time, and it feels familiar to you. So the 16th century feels very, very familiar to me, but also like the 18th century. And the thing about the past, one of the most jarring thing for me about the past, about history, is in terms of social life and in terms of how people relate to each other. Every period that I can look at, it was slow. There wasn't, all the periods were slow, except for, like, the periods when there was a lot of wars. I don't think it was slow during the time of Alexander the Great, or it was slow during the time of the Vikings either, and Napoleon and all them, man, when everybody has seek power. But all the other periods were slow periods where people took their time to do things, took their time to walk, took their time to prepare a meal. I mean, back in the 18th century, it was thought that preparing a meal requires thought and study in preparing a meal, and it's true. And so people took their time, so it was slow and easier then. People took their time to dress, to get dressed, and so on and so forth. Then there is the time of World War II. There are people that we have not, many people have never heard about. That World War II is the most recorded war, is the most recorded war period. In other words, there were many other wars, and they are um, adequately reported. But we talk about books and documentaries and hundreds of different stories that of different people doing different things in World War II. It's quite interesting. The women, for example, there were a whole host of women that played a great role in the defeat of Hitler. Women that played a role in the resistance, not only in France, France, which started the whole resistance movement, but there was also the Dutch resistance, which was also equally as effective as the French resistance. And there were a lot of women involved in spy network, particularly set up by the British, and how many of those women infiltrated the Nazi regime and did some serious damage to that regime and the things they were doing. So history is fascinating, and there are a whole host of things that we still don't know. There are a whole host of people that played pivotal roles in this history, and those people have not, and many people don't know of those people, and the women in that, and the role that the women played in that history. We have questions about things in history. Really and truly, honestly, who assassinated John F. Kennedy? What happened that day? Who is this woman in this picture that nobody was ever able to find her to have a conversation, standing so close to the car? And nobody the people have written hundreds of books and different theories about the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Yet this one woman that is recorded in the picture, she's the only person in that one picture that cannot be accounted for. They know her name, but nobody ever found her. What happened with that? Then there is the theories, the hundreds of theories. Was it the CIA that organized the killing of John F. Kennedy? Was it foreign people? Is it as simple as they said it was? Was it Lee Harvey Oswald visiting Russia, doing all kind of things and all the rest of it? Was it that? You know, there are those questions to be asked because the thing is so vast and history has made it bigger because every book, every documentary, every person that has written something about the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the narrative, the arguments have been pretty much the same but different. There's always something to add, something to take away, and the conspiracy theories is just way out there in terms of all of that. Marilyn Monroe, absolutely my first love in all the world. Marilyn Monroe was my first love. And there are times when you look at the period and you say, boy, I wish I'd lived in this time. Boy, sometimes I wish I was living in that time, but it's not my time. It wasn't the time that I was supposed to live in. This is not my time either, but we can talk about that another time. And how did she die, really? What happened what happened that day? Really, what happened? And there are so many books. I personally own a whole collection of Marilyn Monroe books and movies. I can't even begin to tell you how much that is. And believe me when I tell you, I have read them all, every single one. And all of the theories are different. It's the same room, the same bed, the same dresser with all her things, the same narrative but different. How, why, really, when, who, that kind of thing. Did she really commit suicide? Did President Kennedy and him crew kill her? Did Bobby Kennedy organize it? He was the Attorney General. All kinds of things about that. So we want to delve into some things. So it's interesting to know in history. One of my favorite historical series is Outlander. And I'm telling you, in Outlander, the narrative moving from one period to the next, and period dramas and period movies and period books are my favorite, because it transports you to another time when things were different and people were different. And then when you read it and you watch it and you listen it also come home to you that they weren't all that different. They just did things differently, you know. But in Outlander, the thing that really really had me hooked to Outlander is not just the stones that transport people to different period and different time. It's all being transported from 1945 to 16 something or 17 something, and our knowledge of 1945 and before 1945 could impact some of the things that this period that you're dropping. It could change history. It could cause a ripple effect in history if it was real. If time travel was real, a lot of ripple effect would take place, and we would probably find ourselves wondering, so where did World War II went? If somebody could have gone back and knock off Hitler before he become Chancellor of Germany. And then we would come back in this reality and say, oh, and where's that entire part of history? So there's that ripple effect from the time traveling thing. But there are just so many fascinating things about history, and I want you and I to take a journey with it. I want you to just travel with me and tell me about in your comments. I want you to tell me about your favorite period of history, and what you want to know, or if you want to query something about your favorite time in history. And we're going to look at Jamaica too, and the Caribbean. And one of the fascinating thing about looking at Jamaica and the Caribbean is that I discover, and you will as well, and maybe many of you do know that already, is that even before now, Jamaica was the top of the heap in the Caribbean. Jamaica has always been, and we have set the trend basically in the Caribbean. We are the leaders in the Caribbean, and when you go back in history, you'll discover that, yeah, I just saw it said from then, the colonial masters, yeah, them like to hang out on Barbados, and yeah, them go down to Trinidad, and them been there some other places where never have a good name yet. But Jamaica was them favorite place to be. So Jamaica was always top of the heap. So we're going to look at some of that. colonialism is not my favorite exploratory part of history. I mean, I think I have a preconceived notion already about colonialism and slavery, in light of the fact that there's a vast, great part of history that has been not eroded but sidelined by our very own black writers and very own leaders of history in the Caribbean, by leaving out the part where the African leaders played a great role in enslaving their own people and played a great role in building up colonialism and slavery. And nobody don't want to talk about that. And so when you're looking deep, you're finding a whole lot of things, but still very little, about that part of colonialism and slavery. So there is that. We're going to also, if when we have to look at music, and the history of music and some of the people who actually started the trend of real music, particularly reggae music. Maybe all the people that they say started it, maybe that's not where it really started, because history is also to be questioned. We must ask ourselves, is this really true? You know, there was fact. Is it fact? Is it fiction? Is it true that carrot is good for the eyesight? Or is it that back in the Japanese War, I believe, the United States had a really, really whole heap of carrots. I mean, people were just growing this whole heap of carrots. And people were helping with the war efforts, and they decided to send off a whole heap of carrots to the front lines for the soldiers. And somebody coined this thing to say, yeah, let's send carrots. It will help our soldiers, help our boys to see clearer to kill those Japs. So is it that something just came about, or is it carrot really good for our eyesight? And we will also discover in history that our scientists, most of them, have not always been honest with us about some of the things that we believe to be true. Because yeah, your doctor will tell you, yeah, you should eat a lot of carrots, but where did he get that? Is it true that carrot is actually good for our eyesight? Where he got that? Is it part of the whole historical thing that he got that and them teach him that in medical school, and they came out with that and put that as a part of of medicine, and we must believe it. So history is also to be questioned. It is also to be, it is to be revered, but it is also to be questioned. And it is clear because all the books that have been written about many period of time and about many instances and many historical things that have happened, all these books have the same line of reason, but many of them go off in different directions. And you say, my God, where did he get that from? Because this is what Tom said, and then John said that, and John was backing up Tom, but then Tom gone off. Then when Mary gone off the reservation and gone a totally different way. Could Mary be right? Is it Tom and John right, or Tom and John wrong and Mary right? Is it Mary wrong and two of them right? You have to question it, and you have to put things together in your mind. But that's what makes it fun. That's what makes history fun. Nothing is actually written in stone except the Stone Ages. And I don't know if we're going to go as far back as the Stone Ages. Maybe we should look at what happened. But one of the most fascinating and interesting thing, we're going to look at the first episode on this channel is going to be about Christmas in from a historical perspective. Where did Christmas come from? When did it start? When was Christmas aligned with the birth of Jesus? And in researching that, I discovered that practically everything historically starts with the Roman Empire. Practically everything starts with the Roman Empire, and that is interesting, fascinating even. But everything starts there. Were they were they the first civilized, organized, political, and spiritual, theological, um, um, mathematical? Were they? Was it them? Was it the Roman Empire? Was it? I don't know, but everything seems to start from there. Well, I suppose it have to start somewhere, but everything starts from there. Maybe we could find some other things that will tell us that maybe it didn't, because there are some guys who question that. I mean, those guys don't get much much airplay, and people, I don't think the books that they write sell that much. But there are people who question if it actually started there or if it started before. But even if we question and say it started before and we can't find any kind of physical evidence to support that, it is okay because it's history. We can always, go off and look into other places and other things. We can always spread our thought process and say, is that so? And go. So I want to just let you know that this is what we're going to be doing, and I'm inviting you to come on this journey with me. I'm quite excited about it. I hope you are as excited as I am about it. And of course, we will look into pretty much every period that we possibly can. We will look into movies, we'll look into music, we'll look into art, we'll look into some, people, some artists. I mean, are we going to look at Picasso? Are we going to look at Rodin? I don't know. Are we going to look at Michelangelo? Are we going to look at them, Da Vinci? And I mean, these are great men, and maybe we need to, touch on some of those things and find out what is it about them that made them so great in our minds and create history in the world. So I look forward to you joining me on that journey. All right, so I'll see you on the first episode when I release it, and it's coming soon. God bless you all. Stay safe, everybody, and do remember, keep the children safe.